If it is your first time here, I go through the plot beat by beat. That way you don't have to, and that way I don't forget anything. Or, bruh. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the We Don't Know TV podcast. My name is Leaf. I am your host. This is a podcast where we watch the first episode of a show, and then we talk about it. And today, we're talking about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Now, I was a little apprehensive about when I first saw some of the trailers, and and some of I'm gonna think of screenshots or photos from what this animated series looks like. There's something that I didn't really vibe with, but I was like, you know what, let me watch at least the first episode, see if I even like it. So the premise on IMDb states, the animated series follows Peter Parker on his way to becoming Spider-Man in the MCU, with a journey unlike we've ever seen, and a style that celebrates the character's early comic book roots. So, I don't think that's true anymore. I think originally the show was supposed to be the Peter Parker that we know now from the MCU, his early days, and I think they changed it to this is an Elseworld, type of situation. So I don't think that is right, but it wouldn't be the first time that I read something off IMDb and it wasn't actually correct. So IMDb, you got to get on it. But we start off in Queens. Peter is late for school, and as he's kind of rushing to get out the door, Aunt May's like, hey, I made you breakfast, and she has oatmeal in a bag with toast in it. And I thought it was weird because usually it's you either have oatmeal or you have toast, but as far as I know, you don't have them both together. Maybe that's just me and the life I've lived. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. But so far, the art style, yeah, it is cool. It has this the early 60s or whenever the first kind of comic book version of Spider-Man that we really know came out. It kind of harkens back to that, but of course with animation from nowadays. So I thought it was really cool. I was like, all right, cool. I like this. I will bring this up later, but there is also something about the style of it that kind of feels, I keep thinking of the word empty, and I don't know if that's what it is. I'm not an animator, but there's something like it needs a little something extra to make the world feel a little more polish, filled in. I'm not really sure, but there's something about it that's just oh, this needs to be turned up a little bit, and I don't know what it is. But Peter is late and he misses his train. We have this scene where the music swells and he opens his backpack like he's gonna pull out his suit, but he's apparently not Spider-Man yet, so all he has is his oatmeal, and he looks at it and he goes, ugh. And I thought that was weird because he was grateful that Aunt May made him breakfast, but then he was looking at it like it was gross. So I was like, okay, I don't get it. But Aunt May happens to see him while she's driving by, and she's like, let me take you to school. So as they're in the car, we learn that this is Peter's first day at high school. This is his orientation day. And the problem with this for me is Peter's voice. Peter's voice sounds just a little too old in my opinion. I feel more like he's graduating high school as opposed to going into high school.
I remembered I left something in the bathroom. Deuces. Parker out.
So the whole episode was a little weird for me. Granted, I grew up on the 90s cartoon, and that guy looked like he was 25. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm just saying, I just felt like his voice was just a little too old, but it was just a little nitpick for me. We do have this heartfelt scene when we get to the school. Obviously Uncle Ben is dead, and Peter's just like, hey, man, I'm really grateful that I've had you in my life, especially, after what happened to Uncle Ben. And I'm really glad that you're here for me. And she tears up, and they have a little heartfelt hug. And there's a little joke in the middle, but they have a heartfelt hug. And this is where a portal, or a Doctor Strange portal, opens up above the school. I don't know if they ever really give them names, so I think we're still just calling them the Doctor Strange portal. And a venom falls through. Now this venom looks insectoid, it wrapped around some sort of giant bug, humanoid bug type thing. Off the top of my head, I couldn't remember if this was actually some version of Venom that I'm not thinking about. But yeah, just kind of imagine that. I mean, I'm sure I'll put the clip in here so you'll see it. But we get Doctor Strange as well, but this is the more comic book accurate looking one where he has the yellow gloves, and I kind of like the style. I wish they would bring it back in the MCU. Yeah, so Doctor Strange tries to hold him with his little light whips. Doesn't work. Venom manages to get into the school, and the two of them start fighting. And it is during this fight that we get that MCU type writing that most people tend to complain about nowadays. And even myself, I'm like, I'm not really enjoying that type of thing anymore. So I'm kind of maybe falling out with the whole MCU style. But like when Doctor Strange shows up, Peter's like, "Oh my God, oh, some sort of magic guy." And it's like, all right. And then when the two are fighting, what does he say? Doctor Strange is like, "I summon the impenetrable shield of Seraphim," and Venom puts his claws through it, and he just kind of like breaks it open. And Doctor Strange is like, "Okay, I guess I'm never using that spell again." And it's like that stuff. It's just like, all right, like it kind of works because it's a cartoon, but just because I know like they do it live action, it's like this doesn't work anymore, guys. But anyways, we'll move along. In Doctor Strange's infinite wisdom, he goes, "Let me just flip the room." And there's some poor kid who falls. Granted, his Doctor Strange cape goes to catch him. But I was very much like, is he just flipping the room? Did he just flip the entire school? Like, what if you're in the bathroom, you know what I mean? And then the room just full on flips over. Bad time. Not a good first day. It's never clear, but it seems to be... Yeah, it's not clear because he goes out and he sends escape and he's like, do a sweep and make sure that, no one else is... injured or whatever. And it's like, so how much did you actually flip? You know what I mean? Like, he didn't flip outside, which is clear, but it's like, how much of the school did you full on flip over, my guy? You didn't think that through? Anyways, so as he flips it, he opens a portal. He blasts Venom through. The portal was leading outside, and Venom falls outside, and they continue to fight. So Venom picks up a school bus, throws it at Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange dodges. It lands into the school. Doctor Strange is like, oh no. He does his little time magic, tries to stop it, but Venom interrupts and he's like, oh no. So now there is a school bus that is now in the school. And I also, when he did the whole time thing, I was like, why don't you just use the time thing when Venom fell out of the portal to like rewind him back into wherever you guys were originally coming from to like then handle it? I know that would defeat the whole purpose, but it's just sometimes when you're watching comic book stuff, you're like, there's an obvious solution, you guys didn't try it. I digress. So as this is happening, Venom ends up seeing Nico, and for whatever reason he's like, I gotta attack her. So he goes to attack her. Doctor Strange got blasted away, which is why he didn't intervene, but Peter sees this and he's like, I gotta step up, you know what I mean? So he goes to distract Venom. And as Venom is distracted, Doctor Strange manages to do his light whips again, but instead of using 2 hands, he uses 6 hands. 6 hands, which is like, again, why didn't you do that in the beginning? But this is enough to hold Venom, and he flies away back through the portal. Now, earlier in the fight, there's a small scene when the portal opened where you see the little spider that usually bites Peter, just hanging there for some reason. And so when the portal closed, it landed and fell to Earth. I don't know why I just lost my train of thought. It fell out of the portal. So as Peter is making sure that Nico is okay, and the two of them are just kind of talking and introducing each other, Nico, says her name, like, hey, I'm Nico. And as that happens, Peter gets bit at the same time in the back of his neck. And it immediately takes effect. He's like really woozy, and then she's like, okay, dude, it's like, it's just my name. Like, you don't have to act all weird. He's like, no, I don't, and passes out. And of course, they go to make sure that he is okay. And this is where we transition into the intro. And the intro, you're either gonna hate it or love it, I feel like. So it's the original, like, Spiderman, like, you know what I'm saying? From, like, the original cartoon or whatever, like, back in the day. And then there's a guy rapping in the middle of it. Yeah, and it's... Need my city, you need me. Taking off the mask, I know what you see. Maybe it's the style that he's rapping. Something about this reminded me of, like, some other cartoon. I kept thinking of, like, Ninja Turtles, but there's so many Ninja Turtles I couldn't think of, like, which version I was thinking of, or was it the live action one? But there's something about this that reminds me of something else in the way that it's rapping, and it just, like, it ain't working. Maybe it's like it has like a 4Kids type, like, anime thing, like One Piece. You know what I mean? Somebody's gonna know what I'm talking about. All right, and they're gonna put it in the comments below. It's all right. You know what I mean? I didn't really care for it. But yeah, I'll put the intro in here so you guys can, or part of it, so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But we actually cut, which I thought this was interesting, a few months later. Peter wakes up. He's still late for school because he's Peter. He can never get his shit together. But he's sleeping on the ceiling. He's now shooting out webs to, like, grab stuff. So it's like, okay, cool. He's got a handle on his powers. Except he still can't make it to school on time because he misses the train. But of course, we go back to just like the beginning episode where he opens up his backpack and this time he has the suit. And honestly, I understand what they're going for. This is Peter's like very first suit, like very harsh, like I just made this type suit, and I love the idea, but it's the execution of it I do not like. I do like the weird like little canister things that he has to try to like first web shooters. I'm like, oh, okay, but it's something about like the jersey, like that hockey jersey that he has on. I'm like, it just ain't working for me. I know it's the first one, I get it, he hasn't made the suit yet, but I just don't like it. All right, so but we get the first swinging scene, and this is really where like the world just feels empty. Like we're in New York, but like there's like no cars or people in the street or just like people on their window sills, or like it just feels empty as Peter flies through it like an unfinished video game. I was like, we'll get there, but I was like, I'm a little worried. Where's the budget at? Where are the people? Where's the background? Peter ends up seeing that Harry Osborn is being chased by a couple of people, and they want him for some money. As they're chasing him, Harry falls into the street, almost gets hit by a car. Peter scoops him up, moves him into the alleyway. And this doesn't stop the guys. They're like, yeah, we're going to kick your ass, and we want that money. And one of the guys ends up live streaming, and I was like, I feel like someone would report that if they're like going around and like beating people up. I don't know. But it just felt really weird to be like, hey guys, we got another victim. like and subscribe. You know, let me see some W's in the chat. It was weird. Of course, they're like, we don't care about some spider freak. They don't know about Spider-Man yet. So Spider-Man kicks his ass. He hits a dude with a brick so hard that the brick shatters, and I'm like, that guy's dead. Spider-Man has caught a body, and we have it on tape, and nobody cares. But that guy's dead. Tell me I'm wrong. If I hit you with a brick and it shatters, I'm pretty sure you're dead. Just saying. So Spider-Man stops the thugs, saves Harry. Harry's like, hey man, I was telling them I don't really carry cash, but like I can like Venmo you or whatever. And he's like, no, it's really no big deal. It's like just I was just doing a good deed. He's like, oh, but I'm late. And he swings off, and suddenly this is where the background is populated. There's like a bunch of cars and a bunch of people outside, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So this is where I don't know where they forgot in the beginning. Maybe because maybe they thought you wouldn't notice because he was swinging through the city, but like now it's like full, and I was like, all right, cool. I'm glad that we're fixing this mid-episode. Peter makes it back to school. He sneaks into class. He thinks he's successful. Teacher spins around. It's like, oh, I'm glad you can join us. Talk to me after class. And it's like, oh, man. So we go to Peter and Nico, and they're talking in the hallway. This is when, I don't know why I didn't notice this the first time, that Nico is Nico Minori from Runaways. And I loved Runaways. I mean, granted, it's not the same exact person, but I love Runaways. So I was like, oh, cool. I hope she ends up getting like her magical powers, spoilers, and becoming that character. Peter ends up bumping into Emma and Pearl. And this is where we meet Pearl, who's Peter's love interest. It's not MJ this time. He has had a childhood crush on her for a long time. She used to babysit him even when he was 11. And she like called him Petey or whatever. But yeah, he's like, he has this crush on her. And Nico's like, well, like you should tell her, because Peter thinks he doesn't have any chance at all. And she's like, well, if you don't tell him, like someone else is gonna go after her, and who knows, maybe it'll be me or something maybe or something like that. Like who knows who's gonna ask? And he's like, wait, Nico, are you trying to get my girl? We move on to Peter in class, and there's a car chase, so naturally he has to use the bathroom to go get to stop this. The world, again, as he swings through this time, is way more lived in. There's way more people and cars and a lot more going on. So maybe the beginning part was just like something they missed, or they're just like, whatever, we'll save it for later. One interesting thing about this is that Spidey's trying to hit the car to stop it, and he just keeps missing. And it's like, all right, cool. Like this is like year one Spider-Man. Like he really doesn't know what he's doing yet. And he ends up hitting the bumper of the car, rips it off. The driver accidentally knocks himself out, and then the car starts swerving, right? And so Peter goes to stop this car from hitting a bus. his little like canister thing, he has to like turn it all the way up to the red to get there in time. And then when he does it, is the same MCU move that Peter did when you like watched his little YouTube channel, like, yo, this is you. But now in the show, and it's like, okay, go, that was a cool little nod. But then everyone's like, yeah, like you saved the car, and he's like, thanks everybody, and he like swings away. And I felt like this was a huge missed opportunity because Peter's unequipped. He's not the Peter that we usually know. He's not Spider-Man to like a comfortable degree. So like we see him accidentally knock out the driver, which could have caused way more damage. And instead of having Peter sit with the fact of like, oh, I really need to get myself in order, that way I can actually save people and not cause more harm, they just wiped past it, and then Peter just swung away. And I was like, what a huge like missed opportunity to really like build this character and have him come to terms with the fact of like, I gotta be more careful. Like I could really hurt people if I'm not more careful, with my powers. And especially, with great power comes great responsibility, and everything that happens to Uncle Ben. Granted, we don't see it in this episode, but all the other versions, you know what I mean? I was like, it was right there. How do we miss this? Him saving the day gives Peter enough courage to go ask Pearl out. And as he's walking up to her, Nico grabs him, and she's like, no. Like he is, or she's already with someone. And this is where we see Lonnie Lincoln, the star quarterback, I believe. And she is now with him. And I actually kind of like that Nico like grabbed him and pulled him to the side, because I've definitely been in spots where I'm asked someone out and they've already been with someone. So it's kind of nice if someone would have been like, hey, man, not that one. Like, you got to move on for that one. But hey, you live and you learn, all right? So a week has gone by, and we know this because Peter's like, how could Pearl pick Lonnie Lincoln? And Nico's like, I know, you've been bringing it up for a week now. So clearly this is running through his head, and why wouldn't he? Because, unrequited love. And we are in class at this moment, and it turns out they're going to do group projects. So naturally, Nico and Peter are like, cool, let's team up together. But Peter's like, hey, what if I ask Pearl to be my partner, and then she can see how awesome I am, and we get to know each other. And as they're talking about this, Lonnie asks out loud if he can be Peter's partner. And the teacher's like, yeah, sure. And Peter's like, what the hell? And so the two of them team up, and they're about to start doing their work. And Peter's like, oh, you know what? He's talking like normal about some sort of science thing. And he's like, oh, my bad. Let me like slow it down. And Lonnie's like, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. He's like, I know I look like a jock and everyone thinks I'm going to go to like the pros or whatever. And he's like, maybe it will happen. But he's like, I like to have options. So he's like, I teamed up with you specifically so that I can gain more knowledge. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. We're subverting the dumb jock trope and having this kid who, again, this is already like a school for like the smartest around. So it kind of makes sense that like one of the jocks would be already smart, but having him be like, no, I'm smart. I get it. Like everyone thinks I'm dumb. Like, it's cool. Just talk to me like, like up here. It's like, all right, cool. Like Lonnie's like chill guy. And even Peter after in the next scene when he's talking to Nico is like, actually, the guy is actually pretty chill. He's smart. He's funny. He's cool. He's like, I kind of don't feel bad about, the whole situation with him and Pearl. Yeah. And then even when they first started teaming up together, Pearl was like, oh yeah, Peter's like a really smart guy. So that's even why he wanted to team up with Peter in the first place. So I was like, all right, cool. And towards the end of the episode, it kind of does this interesting thing where Peter starts to head home, and then we actually follow Lonnie home, and we see that he lives a little more in the ghetto. And when he's on the subway, a white mom and her son walk up to him, kind of give him a weird look, and then walk away. As he's walking home, a cop drives up to him, kind of gives him a look like, should I start trouble? And then doesn't, and just drives away. And what I liked about this is it could have been really hand-fisted, and the fact that like there is no dialogue, there's just music playing. You just see like little glances of like people looking at him, and then the scene moves on. And I'm like, cool. I feel like this is a better way to handle something like this. Of there's no grandstanding, there's no like we gotta have this big speech and like everyone's blah blah blah. It's, oh, you're doing this because I'm black. And you can see that they're giving him a look. If you can't figure out the fact that he's black, I don't. That's your own thing. but clearly it's black and it doesn't need to be overstated. We move on. So Lonnie makes it home. Well, as he makes it home, you hear glass break and you see two dudes run away. So I think it's kind of implying that like they're stealing or something. So again, he doesn't live in like the best neighborhood, and you know, he goes home, just a regular family. You know, they're like, hey, can you help your little brother with his homework? He's like, yeah, sure, of course. Just let me take out the trash real quick. Apparently, he's in like auto body class, or like, oh, I forget what it's called. Yeah, something like that. Somewhere you learn cars. And he's like, oh yeah, my teacher thinks that Mom, your car is acting up because of the alternator. So he's like, maybe I'll look at it and I can fix it myself, and then you can save some money on that. And she's like, oh my God, you're so sweet, you know, like, thank you. And so Lonnie's just like a cool guy, you know what I mean? I got no beef, all right? He's a chill dude. So yeah, that's kind of where his story ends. So it's like, all right, cool, we'll see like how this pans out for the rest of the season. But we go back to Spider-Man, and he has stopped a thief outside of a pizza shop. He gives the owner the money back, and the thief is just crying, and she's like, listen, I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. I just lost my job, and I saw all that money, and I don't know. And Spider-Man's like, he's like, listen, like, owner guy, like, you know, it's kind of up to you, but it really just seems like this lady was just down on her luck and made a bad decision. You know, maybe you can just kind of like let it slide this time. And I love this moment because this is putting the neighborhood and friendly neighborhood Spider-Man of like, and then also like every villain isn't this whole like, you know, I gotta destroy the world or whatever. Like sometimes you're just having a bad day, you make a dumb decision. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that they showcase this, especially in the first episode, and really establishing Peter, you know, just being like a really good guy and helping out the neighborhood, and even, you know, this person who happened to make a mistake. It's like, hey, like, we could take him to jail, but like, you know what I mean? And even the owner's like, I mean, I guess we can let him go. Like, hopefully we made the right idea or like decision. But you know, it is what it is. So luckily that lady hopefully has another chance to, you know, turn her life around. And to thank Peter for saving the day, he gives him a free pizza, and Peter's of course through the roof because it's free pizza. So he swings away. He ends up eating the whole thing, and I don't blame him because I would as a regular teenager. So I can't imagine having like superpowers and like swinging around, how much energy that burns. But so he eats all pizza. He finds a old DVD player, and he's like, "Oh my God, why would anyone throw this away? It's like brand new." And it's like, dude, it's a DVD player in 2025. You know what I mean? Like, I'm surprised anyone even knows what that is. But of course, Peter's like a nerd and likes to tinker with stuff. He goes home, he sees this really cool car outside, takes a picture with it, goes inside, and this is where we see Norman Osborn. And if you haven't seen any of the promotional stuff, he is black. Now, usually, I kind of have a problem with superhero stuff, specifically doing like race swapping. But because this show is in a different world or universe, whatever, I'm cool with Harry and Norman being black. But if this was like the actual, like, yeah, we're gonna do like Peter in his younger days, and then they just made him black, I'd be like, all right. Because if you haven't seen any of my other stuff, for me, it's just like comic books have so many characters that it's like, why wouldn't we just do a new character or create a new character rather than just like taking a character and like gender or race swapping them just for the sake of inclusion. So again, this is one of the few times I'd let it slide simply because we are in a different world. So I was like, all right, cool. And that is where the episode ends. So if it is your first time here, I go through the plot beat by beat. That way you don't have to, and that way I don't forget anything. Or, bruh. If it is your first time here, I have a 3-point rating scale. It is one and done, and give it a chance, and I'm in. For this one, I would say I'd give it a chance. I like the animation style, but again, there's something about it that is kind of lacking for me, and I don't know what it is. Peter's voice is a little too old, but I can get over it. And I'm just kind of interested in like where this is all going. I know, like I said, Nico is in here, and she, in the comic books, has magical powers. I saw Amadeus Cho was in the show, and he's like in the comic books, he's I forget, he's a Hulk. I forget what kind of like the it's not the Incredible Hulk, but like the Smartest Hulk, or is it, he has a name. So I saw some characters in there that are other characters. So I was like, oh, I wonder if this is gonna be more like that Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, where it was like Spider-Man, but she also had some other people with powers. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And again, I'm interested to see like what they're gonna do with, if this isn't the world that we know, then you have the ability to kind of do anything. So yeah, it's kind of interesting how they might switch things up. But it wasn't enough for me to be like, I definitely gotta watch another episode. So yeah, that's how I feel about this first episode. Let me know how you feel in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace.